You don't forget the moment your life breaks. You remember every sound, every second, every detail, because in one instant, everything you believed in turns into a lie. And the scariest part, it's not that it happened, it's that deep down, you feel like it was always there waiting to be discovered. That morning felt normal, too normal. The kind of normal that hides storms behind silence. I woke up at the same time. Made my coffee the same way. Walked through the same hallway I had walked through for years. Nothing looked different. Nothing felt wrong. And yet, something inside me was uneasy. Like my heart knew something, my mind wasn't ready to accept. Have you ever felt that? That quiet discomfort that you try to ignore because facing it feels too heavy? I ignored it too. I told myself I was overthinking, I told myself everything was fine. Because sometimes, believing a lie feels easier than facing the truth. I looked around my home. The place I had built with love. Every corner held a memory. Birthdays, laughter, family dinners, sacrifices no one ever sought. I gave my time, my energy, my youth to build something I thought would last forever. But here's the truth nobody tells you. You can give your whole life to people and still not be valued. That realization doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in slowly. In small signs you ignore. In moments you brush off. In feelings you silence. And one day, it all comes crashing down at once. I remember walking down that hallway slowly, like something was pulling me forward. Each step heavier than the last. My heartbeat didn't race. It slowed down. Like time itself was stretching. Like the world was preparing me for something I wasn't ready to see. Then I heard it, a sound, a voice. Something that didn't belong in my home, at least. Not in that way. And in that moment, everything inside me went quiet. No panic, no anger. Just a deep, unsettling stillness. Because sometimes, before the truth hits you, your soul already knows. I stood in front of that door. That one door that separated my old life from the truth I was about to face. And I paused, for just a second, because a part of me knew once I open this, nothing will ever be the same again. But here's the thing about truth, you can delay it, but you can't avoid it forever. So I reached for the handle. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't break. It was like my body had already accepted what my heart was about to experience. And then, I opened the door. In that 1 second, everything ended. Not slowly, not gently, but completely. The life I believed in, the trust one held onto, the respect I thought existed, all of it shattered instantly. But let me tell you something deeper. It wasn't just betrayal. It was exposure. Exposure of years of things I ignored. Of red flags I excused. Of moments I silenced myself. Because when you love someone, you don't want to see the truth. You want to protect the image you created of them. And that's where we lose ourselves. I stood there, not screaming, not crying, just frozen, trying to understand how everything I gave meant nothing. But just when I thought that was the worst part, life hit me even harder. Because betrayal from someone you love cuts deep, but betrayal reflected through your own child, that breaks something inside you that's hard to explain. I turned, and there he was. My son. The one I raised. The one I protected. The one I sacrificed everything for. And he wasn't shocked, he wasn't angry, he wasn't even confused. He was smiling. Smirk. Cold. Distant. Unfamiliar. And then he said it. Words that didn't just hurt. They echoed. They stayed, they changed me. You deserve it. Think about that for a second. You deserve it. Not what is this? Not what's going on? Not are you okay? Just judgment, just blame, just a reflection of everything I had tolerated for years. In that moment, I didn't just feel betrayed, I felt erased. Like all the love I gave, all the sacrifices I made, all the silent battles I fought, none of it mattered. And that's when it hit me, not like pain but like clarity. I had spent years being strong for everyone else, being patient, being understanding, being forgiving. But I had never been strong for myself. I had taught people how to treat me. By accepting what I didn't deserve why staying silent when I should have spoken why choosing peace over self-respect. And that moment, that painful, brutal moment, it didn't just break me, it woke me up. Because sometimes the biggest betrayal is not what others do to you, that it's what you allow to continue. That realization is heavy, that it's uncomfortable, that it forces you to look at yourself. Not as a victim, but as someone who forgot their own worth. And that's where change begins. Not outside, inside. Standing there, heart heavy, mind racing, soul shaken, I realized something that would change everything. I had a choice. Right here, right now. I could stay, I could argue, I could cry, I could beg for explanations from people who clearly had none to give. Or, I could choose something different, something unfamiliar, something scary. I could choose myself. And that decision, it sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things you will ever do, because choosing yourself means letting go of what you thought your life was. Letting go of people you built your identity around. Letting go of comfort, even when that comfort is hurting you. And most people, they don't do it, they stay, they adjust, they tolerate, they shrink. Because leaving feels harder than suffering. But in that moment, something inside me shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, powerfully. A voice inside me whispered, "If you don't walk away now, you never will." And that scared me more than anything else. So I stood there, took one deep breath, and made a decision that would change my life forever. But what I did next, no one expected. Not them. Not even me. And that's where everything began. Not the ending, the beginning. If you've ever felt disrespected, ignored, or made to feel like you're not enough, then what comes next in this story might change the way you see your entire life. So don't skip this, stay with me. Because in the next part, I'm going to show you what it really means to walk away and take your power back. Sometimes the moment you think you're about to fall apart is actually the moment you're being given a choice. Not an easy choice. Not a comfortable one, but a powerful one. Because right after the truth hits you, right after the shock, right after your heart feels like it can't take any more, life goes quiet. And in that silence, you have to decide who you're going to be next. I stood there, still processing everything. My world had just shattered in front of me, but strangely, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't crying, I wasn't reacting the way people expect. I was still, completely still. Because when pain goes too deep, it doesn't explode, it freezes. And in that stillness, I could hear everything clearly. Not their voices, not the noise around me, but my own thoughts, my own truth. The part of me I had ignored for years was finally speaking. Is this the life you're going to keep accepting? That question hit harder than anything I had just seen, because it wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. About every time I stayed silent. Every time I made excuses. Every time I chose to keep peace instead of choosing myself. You see, people think betrayal starts in one moment. But it doesn't. It builds over time. In small disrespect, in ignored boundaries, in things you convince yourself are not a big deal. Until one day, it becomes something you can't ignore anymore. And that's exactly where I was, standing at the edge of a truth I could no longer run from. I looked at them one last time. Not with anger, not with hate, but with clarity. Because in that moment, I saw them for who they really were. Not who I wanted them to be. Not who I believed they were, but who they had been showing me all along. And something inside me detached. Quietly, completely. I didn't need answers anymore, because the truth was already in front of me. And that's when I realized something powerful. Closure doesn't come from conversations. It comes from clarity. So I stopped waiting, stopped expecting, stopped hoping. And I made a decision. Right there. In that moment, I turned around and I walked away. No dramatic exit, and no shouting, and no begging. Just silence. Dignified, final. And every step I took away from that room felt heavier than the last, because I wasn't just walking away from people. I was walking away from a version of myself. The version that tolerated disrespect. The version that stayed quiet. The version that forgot her own worth. And let me be honest with you, that's the hardest part, not leaving them, leaving who you used to be. I walked out of the house, closed the door behind me, and for a second I just stood there, looking at that door, realizing everything on the other side of it was no longer mine. And that feeling, it's terrifying. Because when you walk away from something you've known for years, you don't just lose people, you lose structure, routine, identity. You step into the unknown, and the unknown is uncomfortable. There was a moment, right there, where I almost turned back. Not because I wanted to, but because it was familiar. And familiarity has a strange power that it pulls you back. Even when it hurts you, even when it breaks you. But then I remembered something. Something simple but powerful. If you go back now, nothing will change. Same pain, same disrespect, same silence. And that was enough. Enough to keep walking. So I did. Step by step. Away from everything that once defined my life. And as I walked, the reality started to sink in. Where am I going? What happens next? How do I even start over? Questions. Endless questions. And here's the truth no one tells you. Walking away doesn't instantly make you strong. It makes you uncertain. It shakes you. Forces you to face yourself without distractions. And that's uncomfortable. But it's also where growth begins. I found myself sitting alone later that day. No noise, no voices, no expectations. Just me and my thoughts. And for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about anyone else. I wasn't worrying about their feelings. I wasn't adjusting my emotions to keep peace. I was just there. And it felt strange, unfamiliar, almost empty. Because when you've spent so long living for others, being alone feels like losing something. But what I didn't realize then was that I wasn't losing, that I was creating space. Space to think, space to feel, space to rebuild. And slowly that emptiness started turning into clarity. I began asking different questions. Not, why did they do this? But why did I allow it for so long? That shift, it changes everything. Because when you stop focusing on them and start focusing on yourself, you take your power back. I started seeing patterns, moments I ignored, situations I downplayed, feelings I buried. And it all made sense. Not in a painful way, but in a revealing way. Like finally seeing the truth without emotional filters. And that's when I understood something deeply. This wasn't just an ending. It was an awakening. But awakenings aren't comfortable. They challenge you, push you, force you to grow. And I was just getting started. Because what comes after walking away is not peace right away. It's the process, the rebuilding, the facing yourself. And trust me, that's where the real transformation happens. But here's the part most people don't expect. The hardest battle isn't with them anymore. It's with your own mind. The memories, the doubts, the what ifs. They come back, again and again, trying to pull you into the past. And in the next part, I'm going to take you inside that battle. The one no one sees, the one that determines whether you go back or finally move forward. Nobody prepares you for what comes after you walk away. People think the hardest part is leaving. It's not. The hardest part is what happens when the noise stops and you're left alone with your own mind. Because silence is loud. Louder than arguments. Louder than betrayal. Louder than anything you just escaped. That night, I sat alone. No voices, no distractions, no one telling me what to feel. Just me and my thoughts. And that's when it started. The questions, the doubts, the memories replaying like a movie. I couldn't pause. Did I overreact? Was it really that bad? Maybe I should have stayed calm. Maybe I could have handled it differently. You see what's happening? Your mind doesn't always protect you. Sometimes it tries to pull you back into what broke you. Not because it was good, but because it was familiar. And familiarity feels safe. Even when it's painful. Even when it slowly destroys you. I felt it. That pull, that quiet voice saying, go back, fix it, don't lose everything. And for a moment I almost listened. Because starting over, it's not romantic. It's not exciting. It's terrifying. You question your decisions, you question your strength, you question your worth. And that's where most people lose. Not in the moment of betrayal, but in the moments after. When doubt starts whispering louder than truth. I remember picking up my phone, staring at it, thinking, should I call? Not because I didn't know what happened, not because I needed answers, but because a part of me still wanted comfort, even if it was fake. And that's dangerous. Craving comfort from the same place that hurt you keeps you stuck. I put the phone down, but the thoughts didn't stop. They kept coming, wave after wave, memory after memory. The good moments, the laughter, the times I felt loved, or at least, what I thought was love. And that's the trap. Your mind highlights the good to make you forget the truth. It edits the story, makes it softer, easier to return to. But I forced myself to remember everything. Not just the good, but the full picture. The silence, the disrespect, the way I felt, small, unseen, unheard. And suddenly, the truth became clear again. I didn't leave something good, I left something familiar. There's a difference, a big one. And that realization gave me strength. Not loud strength. Not dramatic strength. Quiet strength. The kind that says, I won't go back. But the battle didn't end there, because healing isn't a straight line. The next few days felt heavy. Every morning, I had to remind myself of my decision. Because your mind, it resets. It forgets pain quickly, especially emotional pain. And if you're not careful, you'll start convincing yourself that it wasn't that bad. But I made a promise to myself, a simple one. No matter how hard this feels, I will not abandon myself again. That promise became my anchor. Whenever doubt came, I held on to it. Whenever memories tried to pull me back, I repeated it. And slowly something began to change. The thoughts didn't disappear, but they lost their power. The emotions didn't vanish, but they became easier to handle. And for the first time, I started seeing myself differently. Not as a victim, but as someone who finally chose herself. That shift, it's everything. Because the moment you stop seeing yourself as broken, you start rebuilding yourself as strong. I began doing small things, very small things. Sitting with my thoughts without running away. Writing down what I felt. Not to impress anyone. Not to explain anything, just to understand myself. Taking walks, alone. Not to escape, but to reconnect. Looking at my reflection and asking myself something I had never asked before. What do you need? Not what they need. Not what others expect, not what keeps peace. What do you need? And that question was uncomfortable. Because I didn't have an answer at first. I had spent years ignoring my own needs. But slowly I started listening. And what I heard changed everything. I needed peace. I needed respect. I needed space. I needed to feel valued. And for the first time, I realized something powerful. Those needs, they're not too much. They're the bare minimum. And if someone can't meet them, they don't deserve access to you. That realization, it builds something inside you. Self-respect. And self-respect changes your standards. You stop accepting less. You stop explaining your worth. You stop chasing people who can't see your value. And that's when healing truly begins. Not when the pain disappears, but when your standards rise. But don't get it wrong. This journey, it's not easy. There were still nights when I felt alone, when silence felt heavy again, when memories came back stronger. But this time, I handled them differently. Instead of running, I faced them. Instead of avoiding, I understood them. Because every emotion has a message, and once you understand it, it loses its control over you. And slowly, day by day, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. Not over others, not over the past, but over myself. And that's real power. But here's where things get interesting, because just when I thought I was finally finding my balance, life tested me again. In a way I didn't expect. In a way that almost pulled me back to everything I left behind. And in the next part, I'm going to tell you about that moment, the moment that could have undone everything. Or pushed me into a version of myself I never thought possible. Just when you think you're finally getting stronger, life has a way of testing you. Not to break you again, but to see if you've truly changed. Because it's easy to say, I've moved on. It's easy to feel strong for a few days, but real growth shows up when the past comes knocking again. And it did that in a way I didn't expect. It wasn't dramatic, no big scene, no warning. Just a message, simple, short, but powerful enough to shake everything I had been building. I think we should talk. That was it. No apology, no explanation, no accountability. Just talk. And in that moment, everything inside me paused again. My heart remembered. My mind reacted, and my emotions, they got louder. Because no matter how strong you become, the past still knows how to reach you. I stared at that message for a long time, not minutes, hours. Reading it again and again, trying to understand what it meant, trying to feel something clear. Was it regret? Was it guilt? Was it manipulation? Or was it just familiarity trying to find its way back? And that's when the real battle began. Not outside, inside. One voice said, maybe they've changed. Maybe they regret it. Maybe you deserve closure. And the other voice, quieter but stronger, said, don't forget what it took for you to leave. That conflict, it's real. It's intense. And it's where most people lose everything they've built. Because the past doesn't come back loudly. It comes back softly, with questions, with emotions, with just enough hope to make you doubt your decision. I could feel it. That pull. That temptation to respond. To open a door I had just closed. And let me be honest with you. It would have been easy. So easy. Just one reply. Just one conversation. Just one moment of weakness, and everything could have gone back to the way it was. But here's what I had learned: going back doesn't fix the past. It repeats it. And I had come too far to repeat something that once broke me. So instead of replying, I did something different, something I had never done before. I sat with the feeling. No distractions. No impulsive reaction. No emotional decisions. Just awareness. I asked myself a question. A hard one. An honest one. If nothing changed, would you still go back? And the answer came quickly, clear. Uncomfortable, but true. No, because deep down I knew. A message doesn't change behavior. Words don't erase patterns. Time doesn't fix what people refuse to take responsibility for. And that realization, it grounded me. It brought me back to reality, back to truth, back to myself. So I put the phone down, walked away, and chose silence. Not weak silence, strong silence. The kind of silence that protects your peace. The kind that says, I don't need closure from you. I already have clarity. And in that moment, something shifted again. I felt powerful, not because I ignored them, but because I didn't betray myself. You see, every time you choose yourself over what hurts you, you become stronger. Not instantly, but deeply. And that strength, it changes everything. I started noticing it in small ways: the way I carried myself, the way I thought, the way I responded to situations. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was choosing. And that's a different level of control. Because when you stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally, you take your power back. Days passed, then weeks. And something unexpected happened. Peace. Not loud happiness, not excitement, just calm. The kind of calm that comes when you're no longer fighting yourself. When your decisions align with your worth, when your actions match your standards. And for the first time in a long time, I felt stable. Not because life was perfect, but because I was grounded. And here's something important. Peace doesn't come from fixing everything around you. It comes from deciding what you no longer allow. That's where I was, clear, focused, growing. But life wasn't done with me yet. Because just when you find peace, life presents you with something new, an opportunity, a shift, a new path you didn't expect. And at first, it feels unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. Because you're stepping into a version of life you've never lived before. And that's exactly what happened to me. An opportunity came. Unexpected. Different. A chance to build something new, something for myself. And here's the interesting part. Old me would have doubted it, overthought it, maybe even avoided it. But this version of me, the one who walked away, the one who faced herself, the one who chose growth, she leaned in. Because I realized something powerful: you can't ask for a new life and keep making old decisions. So I said yes, not because I wasn't scared, but because I was ready. Ready to grow. Ready to try. Ready to become someone I had never been before. And that's when everything started shifting. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily. Because real transformation is built in small, consistent choices. And I was finally making them. But here's the thing, the biggest realization, the one that changed everything for me. It didn't come from the pain. It came from what the pain revealed. And in the final part, I'm going to share that with you. The truth that will change the way you see your life, your worth, and your future. Sometimes the biggest transformation in your life doesn't come from what you gained. It comes from what you finally have the courage to leave behind. And if you've been with me this far, then you already know this was never just about betrayal. It was about awakening. Because that moment, the one that broke me, the one that made me question everything, it didn't destroy me. It revealed me. It showed me who I was becoming, and more importantly, who I was no longer willing to be. For years, I lived a life that looked fine from the outside. A home, a family, a routine. But inside I was shrinking, silencing myself, accepting less than I deserved. And I didn't even realize it. That's the scary part. You can lose yourself slowly without even noticing. Until one day something happens that forces you to see everything clearly. And when you see it, you can't unsee it. That's where I was. Standing in a new version of my life. Point one, I didn't plan. Point one, I didn't expect. But one I chose. And choosing it, that changed everything. Because here's the truth. Your life doesn't change when people apologize. It changes when you decide. When you stop waiting, stop hoping, stop expecting others to become who they never were. And you finally say, I deserve better. Not in words, but in actions. I started noticing the difference. In the way I woke up, in the way I thought, in the way I carried myself. There was no chaos anymore, no emotional confusion, no constant overthinking. Just clarity. And clarity, it's peaceful, but it's also powerful. Because when you're clear, you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't settle. You choose. And that's exactly what I started doing. Every single day. I chose peace over drama. I chose growth over comfort. I chose myself over everything that once made me feel small. And slowly my life began to reflect those choices. Opportunities started showing up. New people entered my life, healthier, stronger, more aligned with who I was becoming. But the biggest change was internal. I trusted myself again. Do you understand how powerful that is? To trust your own decisions. To trust your instincts. To trust your worth. Because once you have that, no one can take it away from you. Not betrayal. Not rejection. Not loss. Nothing. And that's when it hit me, the biggest lesson of all. The moment that broke you wasn't meant to end you. It was meant to redirect you. To pull you out of a life that was quietly destroying you and push you into one that will build you. But only if you choose it. Because not everyone does. Some people go back. Some people stay stuck. Some people keep repeating the same cycle, hoping for a different outcome. But you're still here. Listening. Learning. Growing. And that means something. It means a part of you is ready. Ready for change. Ready for more. Ready to stop settling. So let me ask you something. Not for me, for you. How much longer are you going to accept less than what you deserve? How much longer are you going to stay in places that make you feel small? How much longer are you going to ignore your own worth just to keep others comfortable? Because the truth is, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to suddenly fix everything. That power? It's yours. It always was. And the moment you realize that, the moment you truly accept it, your life begins to change. Not instantly, not perfectly, but powerfully. So if you're standing at your own door right now, if you're facing a decision, if you're feeling that discomfort, that fear, that uncertainty, I want you to remember this. Fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means you're about to grow. That uncomfortable feeling, it's not weakness, that it's transformation. So take that step. Even if it's small. Even if it's scary. Even if you don't have all the answers. Because clarity comes after action, not before. And on the other side of that step, there's a version of you waiting, stronger, wiser, unstoppable. The version of you that no longer tolerates disrespect. The version of you that knows her worth. The version of you that chooses peace every single time. That version, it's real, and it's closer than you think. You just have to choose it. So close that door. Not with anger. Not with regret. But with strength, with clarity, with confidence. And walk forward. Not looking back. Not second-guessing. Just moving, growing, becoming. Because this is not the end of your story. This is your beginning. And trust me, your best chapters haven't even been written yet. If this story touched something inside you, don't keep it to yourself like this video. Share it with someone who needs this message today. And subscribe to this channel, because this is more than just stories. This is about growth. This is about truth. This is about becoming the strongest version of yourself. Drop a comment below and tell me one thing you're choosing to change after today. I read every single one. And remember, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you're facing right now, you are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you feel, and your future is still in your hands. I'll see you in the next one.